I needed to take care of my laundry. I needed to do help with the housework when I got home. I was living with my husband's mother at the time and various other relatives who were all sort of together for the war. And things had to be done, and there was never any understanding or any respect really given to women for their life outside of the workplace. And I admit I myself never even gave much thought to women workers who had children. How were they managing?
When I came to San Francisco to work and went to work in the shipyards, I had a little child that I had to leave behind. I had to leave her with my mother because up here I didn't think I would have any place for her to stay. And I was going into a new community in a new town, and I didn't want to bring my child with me. And I left her with my mother, and that was one of the most awful things I think I ever did to anybody, because even today, that child hurts because she felt, because I promised her that, give me 1 year away and I'll come back and get you. And that 1 year stretched into 2 years and finally into 3 years and ended up almost 5 years before I could go back and get her. And that's one of the things that's very bad. If there had been any kind of conditions under which I could have brought her with me, I certainly would have brought her.
But the community knew about that, was planning to meet that. 11 day nurseries, more to follow. Here, women can leave their children while they work, confident of the best of care in the most pleasant of surroundings.
I don't know. I never heard of any, where I could take my children anyway. They mostly were private ones, and they were way out. I'm sure they must have had them. I had to put my daughter in boarding school. The other one was with her dad. I'd always had her with me. And to have to send her away, but I had, ran into so many brick walls, keeping her in private homes and everything. If it wasn't one thing that was happening, and it was something else.
My kid was little. And so I worked at night, and so I would get home in the morning. I didn't have a washing machine, so I washed by hand, hung the clothes on the line. Then I would have to clean the house, bathe the baby. Then I would have to go shopping.
There were lots of dishes every night, pots. My mother-in-law was not young. I would certainly not see her do the dishes. Now my brother-in-law, who was also, he worked at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and I guess I just accepted it. After dinner, he would lie down on the couch and listen to jazz records. And I felt the need to pitch in the kitchen.
When your husband came home, he propped his feet up and got a can of beer while you fixed dinner. Or even if we weren't working the same shifts, you fixed dinner and left it where it would be convenient for him to get, that sort of thing. So it was very hard for women to really participate in the union meetings.
It just got too much, and I tried so hard to make them see that 10 hours was just too much for me. I didn't mind doing 8 and an occasional 9, but 10 was just too much. I just couldn't do it. And I wrote grievance after grievance, which you just never get anywhere with it.
Some were too tired in the morning to face the assembly line or the workbench. Some found that defense work interfered with their shopping. A few members of the hidden army, it seemed, had earned enough for the fur coat they coveted and returned to their pre-war existence. Perhaps the war news looked swell, and the compulsion to work was dissipated in the confident talk of victory just around the corner. The papers reported a slight falling off in production. The kids needed looking after, and the house somehow refused to run itself when 8 hours a day were spent at the plant. But by far the most common reason was that women were not accustomed to the long hours of hard work. Shortages appeared. American planes found themselves lacking bearing assemblies. Of a sudden, the war was right in the American home. The government regrets to inform
No.
our women learned in bitter tears and heartache that in war there can be no such thing as a slight falling off in production, because there's no such thing as a slight death.
You know, if you even talked about the union too much, you were kind of unpatriotic. How dare you talk about not working overtime or not doing more than you were supposed to when our boys were over there dying for us, you know, not for business, but for us, they were dying.